Hey everyone, I'm Anthony Geathers.
And I'm Gregg Weiss.
And we are good dudes with bad hearts.
No, literally.
Our hearts are broken.
I have heart failure.
And I have a transplant.
We never thought we'd have heart problems.
But we do.
And they're real.
And they suck. And that's why we're here.
To talk to you about heart failure,
heart attacks, and everything that comes with these conditions.
Each week we will bring you an episode featuring guests with heart issues.
We're talking about doctors and health professionals.
And we're talking about everyday people.
Like you and I. Together, we'll share useful information.
Providing useful lifestyle tips.
And how to prepare heart-healthy meals.
We'll tell our stories and hopefully make your hearts
better.
Welcome to Change of Heart.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Change of Heart podcast. We have a different format tonight because, as I'm usually coming in as co-host and introducing myself, tonight we have, as an interview guest, Anthony Geathers. And Anthony is the inspiration for this show. And we're going to discuss tonight what happened to Anthony. As we've spoken to other guests and we've heard other things, tonight we're going to hear what inspired not only this show, but Anthony's change of heart. And of course, I'm tonight's host, Gregg Weiss, and now we have online Anthony Geathers. Good evening, Anthony.
What's up, dude? Actually, I like it. I almost like it, the idea that you're doing the interview and I'm kind of being the guest.
Well, you know, it's definitely a change of mind, as we heard one of our friends say, that we reverse roles tonight and move forward with hearing your story. And so we're going to switch you from host to guest. And let's hear what happened to you regarding heart failure.
Okay, I'm trying to think, where should I start?
Can I help you?
You could help me. You help me prior to going to Europe. Actually, what I will say is this: to those who are out there are listening, Gregg and I have been friends for a while. We reconnected on Facebook. Gregg is also an engraver, and he was the one that engraved my custom bass that we ended up hooking up prior to me leaving for Europe. So we have several connections otherwise outside of the heart thing, but prior to going to Europe, I felt a little sick, but I didn't think it was heart failure or anything of that nature. I thought it was a cold. A lot of people, as you would know, a lot of our guests on the podcast have said that. They thought that they would have a cold, and that impacted it. And obviously for me, I thought it was a cold as well. Did not know until I arrived in Ireland. I did have shortness of breath, but I didn't think it was anything other than a cold, or something. Or could have been pneumonia as far as I was concerned, or anything else, but nothing related to heart disease. Played a couple of gigs out there and noticed that when I was on stage, my shortness of breath got worse. And so while I was out there, I bought their equivalent of a Primatene Mist, which I found out later that was a wrong thing to purchase. So I bought Primatene Mist, and what I would do is I'd play a song. I'd work my ass off. I'd run around like a maniac on stage. As soon as the song would come to an end, I would turn my back to the audience, take a whiff of this Primatene Mist, and then take a bottle of water and pour it all over my face, and just go right back into the game and continue performing, not realizing that my heart was basically falling apart. Or as one of the guys at one of the cardiologists said, you were kind of a walking dead man, and you didn't really know it yet.
Well, I'm gonna pick in and out of what you started saying. Mm-hmm. And Anthony and I are friends. We went to high school together, and Anthony is one of the top world-renowned bass players. And as we've learned in the bass world, just because you don't have the biggest gig doesn't make you one of the best players around.
Absolutely.
And the first image that entered my mind when you were talking about turning your back and inhaling, a medicine, was when I saw the Black Sabbath reunion tour literally the first reunion almost 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And Geezer Butler, in between songs, was wearing an oxygen mask.
Yes, right.
And he would literally be inhaling oxygen in between songs. Now, this is a living legend. You don't know whether he was actually, fighting for his life consciously or unconsciously, but he knew he had to breathe oxygen in order to make it through a night.
That's right.
And needless to say, he's still here, and we love Geezer, and we'll put our worship for Geezer on another show. But when you weren't feeling well, we heard this from another guest, how we have this man pride.
Yes.
And you definitely maxed out your man pride when,
oh my God, yeah, I did, dude.
you jumped on a plane, you went overseas to basically perform, and not just performing, but you gotta be your best.
Yep.
And if you can, explain to me the unconscious pressure you put on yourself.
Oh my God, it's funny that you mentioned that, because my grandmother years ago would say, she asked me, like, what is peer pressure? And you think, of course, it's pressure that everyone else puts on you. And then you realize that it's not. It's the pressure you put on yourself. And not realizing that pressure could have killed me at the end of the day. So, yeah, I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform well. Look, at the end of the day, when people come out to see you, especially when you're traveling overseas, your job there is to entertain the audience. Look, besides being a great musician, you also want to entertain the audience as much as you possibly can. So your man pride does get in the way, because the rational way of doing it would be, hey, man, I'm going to cancel this show and go into a hospital. But nope, the man pride gets in the way. And it did for me in a very, very big way. There's a part of me that kind of regrets it, but there's a part of me that also I enjoyed the experience and the fact that I'm still here. So that kind of made sense. But
well, I agree with that. What I would ask in response to that is, did you tell anybody?
No, dude, it took a while. And actually, it's funny. You were one of the first few people that I called when I got back.
Yeah.
So
what did I say?
What's that cough?
Yes.
Yes, that's the first thing you said was, dude, what is that cough? And I'm thinking, no, I got a cold.
I was crying when you were coughing.
Yeah.
I'm like, and all I remember, all I kept saying was, get to a hospital, call a doctor.
And
and you're like, it's a little cough. It's a little, I'm going to the gym right now. I gotta go eat some Chinese food. I'm gonna be on my way.
Correct, dude. And I went to the gym. I remember trying to do a lat pull down, and I just rolled off the machine. I literally rolled off the machine. And that night I had a doctor's appointment. And I remember going on the machine, going back. I was cat sitting for a friend of mine. So I went back to her apartment to take care of the cats. Then I decided from that point on, I said, all right, I got to go to my doctor's appointment. So, of course, I go to the doctor's appointment. And he looks at me. He goes, dude, let's check you into a hospital. He goes, you look horrible. So I'm like, nah. I said, well, I shouldn't say that. Because by that time, I put on the 42 pounds of water weight. Yep. That's when I ended up putting that on weight. And he said, well, I'll check you in, because he was located in Newburgh. He said, I'll check you in at it was St. Luke's, Cornwall, which was 10 minutes from his office. And I said to him, nah, I'll drive to Nyack Montefiore. And he goes, do you think you'll make it? I go, dude, I made it all the way to you.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep. So I ended up driving all the way to Nyack Montefiore. But even when I got there, I was hungry. So what I did? I went and got a pizza from Tarantella's.
Well, if you're gonna go in, that would definitely be advice.
Yes. So I went to get a pizza first, and I was like, all right, I'm starving, man. So of course, I go to Tarantella's. I get a chicken parm slice, and a portion of it. Drove myself to the hospital afterwards. It took me about 45 minutes to get from the car to the emergency room.
But
that's how long.
But you had to have that pizza. You definitely cooked the numbers going in.
Oh my God, yes! I was so slow walking in. A close friend of mine met me there, and she started crying. She was like, "Oh my God, you're an absolute mess." So got me into the room, And I remember going into the doctor's office, and there were about 4 or 5 cardiologists kind of gathered around me.
And
And
this is at night, on a weeknight, on a weekend?
this wasn't a weeknight. I would not, on a weekend, I'd be afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have people around, but they're a phone call away.
Exactly. So I ended up, the cardiologists were kind of gathered around me. And I remember one cardiologist saying, excuse my candor, but how the F are you still here with us?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the moment of clarity. That was my come to Jesus moment where I was really like, holy crap. And my EF numbers were 13%, dude. 13% when I went in. And that's when they were like, how the hell are you still here?
Can we say that was the moment of denial to acceptance?
Oh, huge. Yes, absolutely. I was in denial of like wow, like yeah, I have heart disease. So of course,
denial till death, huh?
Yep. So as soon as they told me that I had heart disease, I remember trying to be, again, man pride. I was still trying to be cool about it. So the cardiologist leave. So I I'm walking around the room with all my wires attached to me. I'm sitting there. How the hell did this happen to me? I start crying. Like I do the man cry where you cry for like 30 seconds. I'm saying to myself, I should have smoked. I should have smoked crack and took cocaine and shot heroin and did all the drugs and banged all the whores and ate all the cheeseburgers and ate bad food and smoked cigarettes. I should have done all that stuff. Now that was me in the heat of the moment, of course. Then it turned into, there's the devil Anthony and the angel Anthony. And the angel Anthony said, you know something, bro? Thank God that you did all the good stuff, because otherwise you would not be here right now to tell the story. You would not be here to talk about
I have to tell our audience that Anthony and I'll say this about myself. We are definitely the goofus and gallant of staying fit and exercise. and all I know about Anthony is he's always been a health advocate. He's always been a workout, what he calls himself, a gym rat. And I could definitely attest to the fact that if I ever was, it was for a very short period of time until my denial kicked in of thinking I'm going to get healthy. So, but I, anybody who knows Anthony out there knows that he's a martial arts expert. And he's always been on the positive side of taking care of himself. Yep. So to hear this from not only just reconnecting, which happened online, and I see that he's friends with all my upstate musician friends, and I'm going, how is this guy friends with all my friends? How does he know everybody I've known for 20 years? And how do they know this guy? And to find out that he had moved up into the area, and we just started talking, and I had done a quick project for him for a custom pick guard, so he can promote his brand, which we'll show pictures. And eventually he went away and he came back and he became a different person. And we talk on the phone a lot. We talk about our electric bass. We talk about all things back and forth. But when we were about to begin production, he halted it and said, "We're going to be doing a show on heart disease." And we can watch part 1 of another episode of me talking about how I wanted to spend every day of my waking life forgetting my experience.
Yes.
And now we're back to, I have to, become a piece of advice to people who've either will suffer it, have suffered it, will never suffer it. But I told my story and the beginning of it, more to come at other episodes. And, I encouraged Anthony to go with it. I said, this is going to be a good thing. Yep. And, we've gotten to a point where we finally got Anthony in front of the camera. Yes. So now I'm going to start asking some questions.
Yes.
Okay, so you're in Europe. You're pushing your man pride. You're not telling anybody. The question I have is, did you just want it to end, or did you think that somehow all this is just a cold and you're going to feel better tomorrow?
dude, I wanted it to end. The one thing that I did not have was I didn't have any pain. Yeah, that part, yeah, there was no pain. Discomfort, yes. Shortness of breath, yes. But no pain, no signs of anything being.
Any heartburn, any type of
Not really. Nothing. It was
okay.
just really strange.
That's
Like
what I had.
nothing. Yeah, like it was almost like, you know, when you like you get a cut, but you don't feel it until someone points it out to you.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of a thing. It's like I'll use a military thing, and the trauma doesn't happen. Like, for example, I'll use Ronald Reagan when he got shot. When he got shot, he didn't know he got shot. So of course he gets it. He thought he got like a bee sting or whatever case was, because he thought it was such a minor hit. But then what kills you, or what causes trauma, is the idea that you know you got shot, or you like if you see it coming, then you know you're getting shot. If you don't see it coming, like, what's that pain? But someone says you got shot, all of a sudden you go into shock. The fact that I didn't know really kind of said a lot for me in that sense. Like, I just didn't know. Like, I was thinking, okay, great, I'll work this out. This will go away. But once I put on the 42 pounds of water weight, that's when I knew something was seriously messed up. I was like, man, there's no way in hell I can go on carrying this weight, because I couldn't. I mean, I like being physical. The fact that I couldn't breathe, that part scared me. I mean, that part scared the hell out of me. I was like, wow, I can't breathe. I can't move. I can't. Like, it was almost as if some force of nature said, I'm going to help you get past this tour. Once you get past the tour, the reality is going to set in, bro. I'm going to do a favor for you and hook you up and say, look, I'll get you past this tour. But once this tour is over, you need to pay a visit. You need to come to Jesus moment, because this isn't going to work. And then I go to the hospital and find out that I'm functioning at 13%. And then when I got out of the hospital, I went to the doctor for my follow-up. I was up to a whopping 18%. So
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I've been out of the hospital for 2 weeks. How am I at 18%? He goes, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you, this is where you're at.
Yeah, it's where you're at.
He goes, you look, your version of 18% is a lot different than what most people, because you're athletic. And I'll give you an idea of what we're talking about. Now, Gregg and I both know this, because Gregg is a transplant and I went to the heart disease. There's a thing called an ejection fraction number. So the ejection fraction number is the rate at which your heart pumps. Unfortunately, because you live in America, it doesn't give you 100%. 100% doesn't exist here because of our dietary habits and our lifestyles. So a normal heart rate is between 55 and the normal EF number is between 55 and 60, which I am now there. At this point, I'm here now, as of 2 weeks ago. You get higher than that, you're an athlete for the most part, but you don't hit 100%. Now, anything below 40 EF is considered dangerous. I'm walking around like at 18 after I got out of the hospital, and they threw me on a bunch of these meds, which of course increased it. But I was like, man, I cried even more the second time, because I was thinking that, okay, great, I'm out of the hospital now. I'm
back
better.
to 30, 40. I'll be at 50. Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm closer to 30. They're like, no.
No, it's a long struggle.
Yes.
The two advantages that affected how I handled what you were going through. The first is, and I learned this after the fact, is that the muscle being an organ,
yes,
the heart is a muscle, excuse me, that's an organ, I'm thinking ahead of myself, is it can regenerate its strength.
Yes,
as opposed to a lung or a kidney or a liver that's essentially tissue.
Yes.
And tissue doesn't necessarily rebuild or re-strengthen.
Well, most
but
funny,
the heart,
as you know, sorry to interrupt you, but you know that my lung collapsed as well.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Yep. So I lost my right lung, but now I blow 99% now.
Right. Oxygen. Well, whatever occurred, you regenerated where you were.
Yes.
And that's the power of healing. The one thing I would like you to talk more about, and this happened to me, of course, after the fact, is the power of faith.
Oh my God, yes.
And what the reflection that begins is it's a power that's unstoppable. It's a power that is within us all.
Yep.
And it's a question of acceptance and believing that you're going to heal.
Yep.
I received this gift from a friend of mine who I was working with at the time, and every day he would grab me and we would pray, and I'd look at him and I'd be like, okay, I'll pray with you. He says, no, I'm praying for you. And
Okay.
I didn't really know what he was talking about until I'm having heart failure in a hospital, and he ex military, and he was security in the Air Force, and he would gather a prayer group, still does every day, and I'm in his prayers. And he would give me a prayer to speak, and that he would tell me that this would create a positive experience for your doctors and for the procedures you were going to go through, and that you have to believe. And once I started accepting it, it changed my outcome extremely. And to hear you talk about having your moment, I told my friend about your situation, and whether you know it or not, he's praying for you every day with a group of vets. And this is how they heal from their experiences, whether it be from the military experience or from their health experiences, and they spend most of their day listing names, praying. And he wanted to know the name of my doctors and my relatives, and this is I think my experience is exceptional, and it's one of the things we try and talk about on this show. But now that we're talking to you, what changed from before you went on tour to discovering like a faith afterwards?
Oh, dude. First and foremost, the power of prayer works. But I'm also going to add on. I'm going to add on top of that as well, because as you know, I'm a vet, so I had lots of family support, lots of friends like yourself, and other people who give me support. My ex just came out of nowhere and gave me a lot of support. So my VFW gave me a lot of support. Speaking of prayers, because we have a minister on board who we pray for everyone in the military. We pray for everyone who's actually not in combat. We pray for on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. We pray for those who served. And we pray for those who are sick. But when you're doing the prayers, when you're part of the VFW meeting and you're doing those prayers, it never ever crosses your mind that one day you'll be the one that they're praying for. You never think
I
of it.
agree.
Yep, I'm the one. And getting back to man pride, part of what, as we discussed with a lot of people on our episodes, is that we talk about the idea of superhero syndrome. So for me, the idea of being in good shape so I can help everyone else. I can be there for everyone else when they need it. You can be there for your family. You can be there for your friends. You can be there for a stranger if they're having a moment where someone has a car accident and you're able to save them, or there's a fight that breaks out and you're able to help defend someone. You never think of it in terms of, which one day someone said to me, who's going to help you out, Superman, when you get sick? When your kryptonite kicks in and you're laying there all curled up on the bed, who's going to be there for you? So never ever thought of it that way. But then I have a pastor friend, I'll say her name now, Pastor Naria Butler. She was pretty much my guiding light the entire time. Like she wasn't one that I wasn't going to tell anyone. Speaking of telling anybody, as you discussed earlier, I didn't want to talk about it. So she wasn't one that encouraged me to post it on Facebook, which I ended up getting over 300 responses from it. But behind the scenes, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast, because I ended up getting 25 people who sent me private messages talking about how they understood what I was going through. These are 25 people who had heart issues. So I was like, wow, there was no one wants to talk about the shame or the stigma behind having a heart issue. That's the first thing I felt. I was like, man, I spent all these years eating right. I go to the gym. I'm physically active. On stage, I'm physically active. My cardio is good, so I figure my lungs are strong, my heart is strong. But what collapsed first? My lungs go first, and then my heart goes. So I'm like, wow.
Well, what I learned is essentially they're one and the same, because since the heart is the power source of the other organs, that if you have an organ failure, it's generally due to a pump failure or your heart. Now, you don't have any kind of clogging. You don't have any kind of blockage issue. And I'm going to say in my case, it was definitely similar to that. And what I had been told was that it was some kind of virus or some kind of cold. But whatever it was, it caused your heart to fail.
Yes.
And I mean, I originally had a heart failure. It was 2004. That, similar to you, it got treated medically, and I was out, down the road for, over close to 15 years before I had to have it addressed again. And, I'm praying, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have better results than me because of your physical condition and your exercise and your diet. And where my man pride kicked in was I forgot about it.
Did you really?
Well, you want to forget it. I mean, you take your meds and you're moving on, and you get back into playing in a band, you get back into working, you get back into, how you felt before, your tragedy occurred.
Yeah.
And, this is where it ended up for me. So, okay, you end up in the hospital. You're at 13% EF. They basically evaluate you, they medicate you, and they send you down the road. How fragile?
Well, I don't want to forget the part where they congratulated me the next morning.
Oh, for living, just surviving.
For living. Yeah, he said, one of the doctors said, "I've seen your numbers before. He was in my 30 years of being a cardiologist. I've seen your numbers before. I just don't see them survive." So,
that's true.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You're talking to one right now, but they diagnosed my issue as oxygen deprivation and sleep apnea. And that's when I began CPAP therapy with oxygen. I was on an oxygen machine for about 2 years, sleeping at night with oxygen, and that made me feel great. And it that medication brought my EF back. So my question is, they get you stabilized. You're good enough to get released, and you get out. Now, how fragile do you feel trying to pick up your pieces?
Oh, dude, I couldn't. It was embarrassing. Not embarrassing, but definitely humiliating, because again, the man pride kicks in. So I couldn't carry shopping bags. Walking upstairs was a chore. Little simple day-to-day things were virtually impossible for a while. Like just simply like trying to dust off the windowsill was not an easy task. I would need to take a rest for a little bit.
You're preaching to the choir.
But you know the drill.
You're preaching to the choir, which is one of the reasons why I ask. Going through similar things myself. But you definitely come from the opposite perspective of having physical strength from constantly exercising and working out. And we had even heard this from a bunch of guests that they were also, people that did extensive workouts and always, push their physical extremities to any kind of limit. And how long was it until you felt okay? I'm on my path back.
Okay, probably about a month, I'd say.
Okay,
but more than likely. But I was in PT. I was in PT where they put all the monitors on you when you're walking on the treadmill. I was probably on that within a week of getting out. At first they were because my numbers were 18%. When I went to visit the doctor, they were like, well, maybe we should hold off on that. And Dr. Judah Rausch, really good guy, he was the one that said, just go on because look, he goes, you're an athlete, so the goal is to get you back into that shape. So we want to get you on, but I'll just recommend to the PT person that you start off really slow, just like the way you would walk if you were walking down the street.
A
You know, like a
question
normal walk.
quickly: did you get
Yes.
cardio rehab?
Oh, a week after my second visit. So you're talking 3 weeks.
And where did you do it?
Nike Hospital, Nike Montefiore.
You're the second person who is claiming the extensive positive results of cardiotherapy at NIAC.
Absolutely.
One of our guests, who happened to be
Yep.
my mom, did it. I actually, ironically, I had 2 cardio rehabs.
Mm-hmm.
My first cardio rehab, it took me 6 months to get into Helen Hayes
6 months at Helen Hayes.
because of COVID.
Whoa.
They weren't accepting
Yeah,
anybody.
that makes sense.
And after I had gotten accepted, you know, it's like somewhere between 3 to 8 weeks, depending upon how many days a week. 3 weeks in, on my off day, I got my transplant call.
Wow. Okay.
So it was about 2 months later, after my transplant, that I had gotten accepted into cardio rehab up here at in Orange County
Oh,
at
wow.
the hospital.
Okay.
It was in between names at that point, but
Yep.
I can't explain enough how cardio rehab will give you the path to pick up where you left off and where you
Easily.
physically can't do things.
Easily.
The first cardio rehab that I had, it literally trained me for sitting up and standing up out of a chair or a
Mhm.
couch when I had no physical strength to even want to.
Okay.
You know, and at that time I was, well, I'm going to talk about this in the second episode, but I was carrying a heart pump with me.
Whoa.
So, you know,
Does
I
that
mean,
thing weigh like 7 pounds or?
the batteries are 7 pounds, but you also have 7 pounds in the pump. So it's an extensive thing. Now, in my class, when you were in the class, these were geriatrics in their late 70s, 80s.
Mm.
And I'm there, and I, at the time, I was I must have been 54, 55. And it would keep pushing, and you know, they're looking at me and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, wow, you guys are in pretty good shape. They're like, yeah, you're in pretty good shape too. And I'm like, oh my god, that was crazy. But yeah, just you know, the benefits of cardio rehab are countless, and
they're awesome.
They're very bountiful. And do you think without it you'd have done as good?
No, that's really why, because I needed it. Not so much wasn't the physical part of it. It was more mental. It was more it was more the emotional, mental part, because my goal was to get back into the gym. So I needed the push. So the idea that I kept calling the doctors going, when can I go back into the gym? And they're basically saying, geez, you want to kill yourself? You know, you got to like slow down a little bit. So, and that's when they assigned me the cardio rehab. And the PT, she pretty much, I only went twice. And then I was back in the gym after that. But I just needed that emotional, I needed that push, because my goal mentally was to get back into the gym. Get back into sparring a little bit. Like, I wasn't going to physically spar because I don't want anyone. Actually, someone offered me to spar with me. I said, dude, I don't want you punching me in the chest by accident. You might kill me.
Yeah, but you were like shadow boxing.
Yeah, you know. So, but even then, I didn't want to take the risk. I didn't want to put my body in an awkward position. I had a situation when I finally got back to the gym. It might have been too soon, and we had our guest Randall on the phone. And I remember doing a leg workout that day because I felt strong, and I ended up tearing my hamstring. So I think it was a little bit too soon, and I didn't give myself enough time to stretch.
Was that from apathy of just
pretty much
walking?
apathy? Yeah, you're right.
Well, I like I said, I'll talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the problems is restarting everything.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
Getting circulation back to all the extremities, and you know, you're talking about somebody that had failure who had to have a pump in order to wait a year and get a transplant.
So let me add this in. When I was there and when Randall called me, I felt strong because I was doing the high squat machine. I think I had 4 or 5 45-pound plates on. So I was so happy that I was able to, this is on each side. I was so happy that I was able to actually do the weight the way I did.
And then it caught up with you.
Then it caught up with me at the last rep. And Randall literally within 2 minutes of me doing that, Randall called me, and I said, I'll be fine. And then I later realized, this isn't really working for me. So
just from an opinion from the other side of just what I had learned is that because of your medications and because of the lack of mobility that you suffered, what happened is it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for your heart to catch up from the energy you just expired.
Yes, this is very true.
And it doesn't register until you've pushed that limit.
Yep.
And I'll go on talking about it at another time. Sure. But it was.
Well, wait. Let me interrupt you for just a second. I want to hop in that while we're talking.
Yeah. No, go for it.
I was trying to push my my heart rate past 130 to really test out, see how strong it was. And I remember Dr. Judah Rausch said to me after one of the follow-ups, I said, why is it not going to 130? It's stopping at 120. And he goes, the carvidiol stops your heart. It will prevent your heart rate from passing that point. So no matter how hard you push, you're not going past 120. I mean, I'm sweating profusely, but my body was like, nope. My heart was like, you're not going past 120. And he goes, you can push as hard as you want. The carvidiol is not going to let you go there.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
No, it's one of the life-saving drugs associated with heart disease.
Yes.
The brand name is Plavix.
Yes.
And
Plavix.
I was a bona fide recipient and user of Plavix for a number of years.
Wow.
That's a whole other story, but got off it, after like 2 years, and these life-saving medications are one of the, I'll call it a repellent to the number one killer of people in the United States and probably the world.
Yes.
Watching and producing these episodes, I've had to do a lot of research, and the easy research is that heart disease is the number one killer of people in the United States, close to 700,000 plus people. It's followed by, unfortunately, cancer. And number 3 that people don't really understand or get a grip on are accidents and preventable causes.
Yep. Yep.
And, maybe we'll do a podcast on accidental and preventative causes, form of death, but there's no medications for those.
No, there's not.
That's car accidents, poisonings.
Yep. Well, there's no medication for driving while distracted.
Yeah. Cleaning your gutters.
Cleaning your gutters. What was the name of that show?
It was 1,000 Ways to Die.
Yep.
Yeah, that was definitely a bizarre show, but in that respect, just getting back to heart disease, what we've learned is that there are numbers and numbers of different types of heart disease. It isn't just a heart attack. It isn't just a clogging. There's valves that go bad. There's your aorta and your veins go bad.
Yep.
There's calcification. There's dozens of different types of afflictions that cause people to have what you and I call a change of heart.
Yep.
And in my case, it literally was a change of heart.
Yep.
But I'm going to ask you again. So we're going to backtrack a little. Okay, you're out of the hospital, you're recuperating, you're going to the gym. What was that moment like when you realized I'm better, that I'm able to get back into the pace and lifestyle that you were leading before the sickness? I'll ask you later about how long you thought you were sick, which is probably a lot longer than you probably realized.
I think it's a lot longer than I know.
But asking here, I'm going to suggest, how far after your initial recovery did you realize, now I'm not having an issue? Now I'm not I'm not slowed down anymore. And you actually put it not as the first, second, or third, but like the fourth thing in your mind?
It was probably in September, I'd say, because my issue happened in August. I'd say late September. There was one night while I was taking the trash out, and just on the way to the trash can, I felt comfortable. I was like, wow, this feels kind of cool. And I remember deciding from that point on, I dumped the trash. I went back to my car. I swapped out my slippers for my running shoes because I always have a gym bag in the car. And I decided to I did my Forrest Gump. I went for a 5-mile walk around Spring Valley. I literally just decided right there and then at 10:30 at night, I put on my sneakers and went for a 5-mile walk. I did my Forrest Gump. I was running. So I decided just to go walking around Spring Valley. And I put on my Apple Watch. I turned my watch on and started walking around Spring Valley. And I accomplished 5 miles. And when I went home, I'm like, wow, I'm not tired. My lungs felt good. It was just one of the best feelings for that moment.
Oh,
so
I
that
understand.
was the first moment. And
I
the
understand.
second moment.
I want our audience to hear that.
Okay.
And now I'm going to back it up and go, how do you feel today?
I feel awesome. Now that I have my second, my follow-up, I did my echocardiogram about a month ago, and my numbers are now at they're about EF 55 to 60.
Yeah.
So that made me feel super, super awesome. So thank you very much, man. Yeah, so I'd like to thank the Academy. I want to thank you for being supportive, everyone else around me. I want to thank this show because you learned a lot more. Getting back to what we said earlier about being sick, I had sleep apnea too. You know, I would hear like some of our guests talk and go, you know something? I had the exact same thing they had. The difference is I had to make some changes. Like I never got a CPAP machine, but I had to kill off dairy. Dairy was one thing that, I was feeling a lot of mucus. So as much as I love cheese, I had to get rid of it. I also knew that by doing that, because I did not want to go on the machine. I've known people who've used it. I know that you use it as well. I just like, man, I'm afraid of having that extra apparatus as opposed to being able to sleep normal. I'm like, I'm not born with it, so therefore I don't want it. So I said, all right, what can I do? Increase my cardio so that my lungs are better and that I can breathe more. I can breathe better. And that actually does work. Increase my meditation and work on my breath work. That does help as well. And just focus really heavily on healing. That was the big thing. And that's lots of prayer and talking about it. Because in doing the show, in Change of Heart podcast, this to me is very therapeutic. And I know with you, it was the opposite. You wanted to forget about the experience. And for me, I wanted to remind myself, just in case I wanted to, eat that cheeseburger and do a couple of things that were like a little hardcore. It's like, all right, I need to constantly remind myself to not do it. So you got to get rid of the man pride. You got to come from a rational perspective and just think in terms of what can I do to prevent that from ever happening ever again? Because we all know, look, we're getting older. So we know that it's going to get to the point where it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I might as well I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't decide to, what can I do to fix this problem and make sure it didn't happen again?
Well, I agree. From the standpoint of going through what I've gone through, I've had to accept a few things and try and change things in another way, with the diet and being a lot more active. And, I'm going to say that without having music in my life as not only an emotional, but a therapeutic outlet, that I don't think I would really want to have what I have in life now if I didn't have that as a part
Can I tell you
of
something?
who I am.
agree with you. I should have included that because.
Well, I'm asking.
Yeah, but that's something I should have included because we are both very passionate about music. And the music does drive me. It really, really does. Music, dance, and movement. Those are the three things that keep me moving. I hate to say it, food as well, but I can't eat the way I used to eat. I can't do as many rich foods. So there has to be these new dietary choices that have some flavor to them. But we can't go back to, eating the pizza, like the chicken parm pizza that I had the night before I went, the night that I went to the hospital. And I remember asking a friend of mine, can you go out to the car and like grab the slice of, because I had half the slice.
Yeah, I want to finish the crust.
Yep. So I remember, and of course, doctor's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not going to eat that.
Yeah, no. And then hospital food will really change your mind about eating at all.
Oh my God, hospital food. And I remember wanting to order some of the meatier stuff. And I remember the people down in the cafeteria were like, oh, no, you don't get any of that because you're on a special diet list. So anything that I wanted, they were like, no, you're not getting that. Grilled cheese, you're not getting that. You're going to basically get whole wheat bread.
Drastic change.
All drastic stuff. But I was used to eating kind of like that anyway, because even though I would cheat and have some junk food, I ate a lot of vegetables and fruit. I constantly would always do a protein shake with a vegan protein powder. And then I'd have kale or spinach on top of that. If not, I would have oatmeal with, I would do red mill oatmeal, not Quaker. I would have strawberries. I would have turmeric root, ginger, chia seeds, some other dry fruit on top of that. And if it was a summer, I would add in watermelon and type of cantaloupe, or a banana on top of that. So I usually had 3 fruits on top of that, and then I would have my junk. So for me, it would always justify, well, if I'm eating healthy, I can still go out and cheat and have some of the other stuff. That's kind of how I always thought in my head. Like, all right, I can have the other stuff, but I can still eat the junk. And but it worked out better just to kind of have that a little bit, but not cheat, like to kind of break away from that. Every once in a while I still do, but as long as my, I used to call it an 80-20 diet, where it's 80% really, really good stuff and 20% like not so good stuff. Now it's more like a 90-10, where it's 90% really good stuff and then 10% where I can have the bad stuff where I can cheat. Because look, living a life like this and then going to the gym, after a while it becomes a drudgery. It's not fun. I don't want to be in my deathbed going, in 2020, 2030, let's say something goes wrong then. God willing it doesn't. But let's say I'm there. I don't want to be lying on my bed going, I should have had that canister of Haagen-Dazs while I was lying on my deathbed. I don't want to be in that position to do that. Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I froze out for a second, and I'm hitting my backup here.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I locked out for a little while, but
no big deal.
Around here I don't know what it looks like, and so I started my backup. In any event, lost my train of thought. Oh, here we go. What lies ahead?
What lies ahead? Just keep myself in good health, man.
Oh, the first thing. Oh, this is my question. So when you faced your nemesis of a chicken parm slice of pizza, again, because I know you had to have one at this point, what was it like? What was it like relishing in the food that almost took you down?
Dude, it was like the best experience I've ever had. I was so happy. I went to Nog. Actually, I'll post a photo when I do the edit. I just there was like a ray of light behind me. I did a selfie with me across the street, sitting at the park bench. It was 10 p.m. at night. I had to pick up something from a buddy of mine down there, another video producer. And I decided, something?
I'm going to Tarantella.
Chicken parm pizza. Yeah, I went to Tarantella and said, I'm going to enjoy this slice. And just sat there. And I'm sitting behind me, and I see a reflection from the pizzeria, the lights behind me from the bank, across the street. And I sat there, I set up my camera, and just did a selfie of that. And I said, this looks really cool. But it was almost as if it was like, all right, you've come to the position where you can indulge in one of these once in a while. You can't do it often. You can definitely engage in it once in a while. And that was fun. Like, look, you've been there, I'm sure, man. That was the best tasting chicken parm slice that I've had in like years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really was. I had to admit defeat that I'm invincible, and I had to give up my donuts. So
Oh yes,
that
yes.
we spoke about before. But have you added any supplements, any nutritional?
Oh, I've added more, meaning that I've always done them anyway.
Mhm.
But the Ubiquinol 10 is an addition now. Um, Omega threes, of course, fish oil, more
Was that
salmon.
because of me, or you did that anyway?
I did that anyway
Good.
because I was always. You got to remember, I'm half Caribbean, so we do fish oils anyway. So
Yeah.
that was kind of our kind of part of standard with us, and then added that in more sparrow root, more dandelion root, yellow dock, anything that was like a natural blood thinner. I added in. I added more beets into my diet, and I didn't like beets in the past,
I hear you.
but yeah, I really
I
wasn't a
hear
fan
you.
of beets. I mean, if you want to do a movie and you need to have fake blood, just take beets and then pollute the area, and that will give you the look of like you're bleeding
Yeah.
internally. It just doesn't have that look outside of that.
I think that's
And
the color of unoxygenated blood.
yeah, exactly. Added more B12. Actually added a B complex on top of my B12. Zinc, magnesium, and more calcium.
All
Um,
right.
on top of that, so it's on top of the. So I have my separate sections. There's my heart meds, and then there's my supplements. But you
Mhm.
also want to have the diet to support the supplements as well, because most people don't realize it's a supplement. So you need to take that in addition to your food. Like you don't just
Well,
do
that's
that
true.
solely.
I mean, 2/3 of my therapy of the pills that I take are supplements.
Okay,
You
there it
know,
is. Same thing with
and
me.
and it's ironic. Like you see commercials on TV. There's a new one. Was it Tony Hawk is pushing magnesium?
Yep.
And he's like, oh, you could take a dose of dose is why you read the screen and it says, oh, it's 400 milligrams, and it's like, oh, it sounds like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I take 4 times that every day. And
Mm,
part of the reason are the drug interactions,
yeah.
and that because I'm taking antivirals and anti-rejections and antibacterials and anti-immunity drugs all at once, that a lot of these drugs need these supplements to function properly.
Well,
And
yes.
in my case, it's iron, it's magnesium. There's a few others. The fish oil,
Okay. Are
that
you
we
anemic?
spoke about. You want the great answer? Not
Sure.
anymore.
Oh, so you're not.
Not anymore. I
Okay.
was anemic after. Well, I'll the details are after my first heart surgery. Yes, and
Okay.
after my second heart surgery, yes.
Okay.
But I corrected things in my diet, and sometimes I eat an overabundance of them. But I think it paid off for me. It
Okay.
was one of the things that I remember from Adele talking to
Mm,
us
okay.
about how he had this not in my case, but in his case, he had a need to eat salt.
A need. But isn't that kind of what we have in America? Everything is, and I remember telling someone this, and sorry for interrupting you, but isn't like someone said that we have a fat problem here? I go, no, we don't. We have a carb problem here. It's carb and salts.
Well, they're
That's our
combined.
issue.
They're I think they're intertwined, but I think what
They
he
are.
was talking about was that he had a very natural diet,
Mm-hmm.
and that he had a very raw and cooked foods. He wasn't eating, he wasn't eating a diet that was outside the realm of, extensive one or the other. But he was talking about how he needed the salt because of his um, uh, high levels of activity. That
Okay.
that he was discharging a lot of salt because of the amount of water he was drinking or fluids that
Okay.
he was drinking, and that it wasn't necessarily drinking Gatorade. It was literally adding hard salt to his diet in order to
Wow.
make his body stronger.
Okay.
They always talk about one of the other things is potassium. That
Potassium's huge.
potassium, because potassium reacts with salt, and that's
Yes.
how it controls your electrical system. in your body. And it was one of the things that I had after my first surgery that I ditched, that they took me off it. And well, when you have a heart pump, all the rules change. And you know, in detail in another episode, but in general, it was something that in my case, oh damn, sorry, my computer, there it goes. My Thunderbolt wasn't plugged in. My new therapy is a lot of supplements along with my medications, because you know, these medications are kind of extreme, even though I'm not really on high doses anymore.
Sure.
Your body adapts, but because I have different DNA running one of my organs, that I have to take a large dose of supplements in order to keep everything level.
Well, yeah.
Oh, and just in case you were asking, somebody with a transplant does not have double DNA.
I asked that. I asked that during the Kevin.
You know what I'm saying? And
the Kelvin Smith interview.
Well, I researched it on two folds. I don't have 46 chromosomes.
Yes, I remember asking.
Chromosomes. You basically have my 23, but because my organ came from somewhere else, it doesn't distribute into your blood.
Yes, I do. I do remember asking Kelvin. Is it Kelvin mentioned that it was a young Irish skateboarder kid, and I said, "Do you ever feel the need to like?
Do you have a whole new gene pool going on?" Yeah, no, that was one, and the other one is it was about, oh my god, somebody asked me this about how does my body regulate its pulse and blood pressure, because they actually remove a lot of those nerves in order to get the new heart in.
Okay,
and the answer is it does it itself. Which in your case, the nerves are medically suspended. I'm not putting on a doctor's hat, and I am not an expert. But what happens is these medications dull the sensors around your heart, which is why your blood pressure doesn't increase, or your pulse rate it doesn't increase, because it's being medically suspended.
Well, yes, that is true. But now that it kind of becomes normalized, I'm able to control it better. My pulse, my heart rate probably this morning was probably about 55.
Morning, 55. Get out of here. Come on.
Yeah. 55 this morning. That was my resting heart rate.
Are you on any blood pressure specific medications?
Well, I can tell you what I'm on. So you're talking Eliquis, Entresto,
blood thinner.
Yep, Carvidiol.
That's not a blood thinner either.
No,
the first two were.
What's the Atorvastatin? Is that how you pronounce it?
That's a third. You're on 3 blood thinners.
Yep. So Farxiga.
That's why it's so low. Nice.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Farxiga is another one. What's a Spirulactin? Is that what it's called?
That's a water pill.
Yep. So Spirulactin, torsemide, of course, is a water pill.
Yeah. They got you going. Okay.
Yeah,
man, you're up there.
But so torsemide, Spirulactin, Atorvastatin, maybe aspirin, 81 milligrams.
Yeah, you got the whole. You got the good routine going on.
But I had 12 at one point. I'm now down to the 8. So I do a few at night. I do more in the morning, but then I do less at night, obviously. So there's a morning routine, then there's a night routine.
Well, I understand that. I mean, like, again, you're preaching to the choir. Yes. I'm going to ask you your last question.
Yes.
Okay. I feel blessed that we've started this show. I feel blessed that you're my friend. Your support has gotten me through a lot of things I never thought I'd ever go after, in terms of doing recollections or talking about what I went through and all these other things. But awesome, I'm going to ask you for your final question. What are you thankful for?
Life and my friends and you. You're part of that, man. Randall, who's engineering. No one sees his
Yeah,
face
Randall.
right now, but yeah, Randall
Stop
was a
eating
good
all that
support as
tofu
well.
and broccoli.
Yeah, stop eating that tofu and broccoli, Randall. My mother, my family, God, just everyone. My friend, Pastor Naria Butler, all of my exes, my currents, my life. Um, Music. Think without music, dude, I don't know where life would be. Yeah,
I hear
music
you.
movement.
No, I understand.
Yeah, just a simple idea of breathing life, man. Like music, in my opinion, works in conjunction with that. Like there's the oxygen and there's the oxygen that feeds us, and music. And I can't speak for you, but I know that we both, as bass players, like we don't just listen to music; we're invested in it. Like
Mhm.
we're invested in it completely different than the average person that way. So without that, without the art of movement, the physical being, just environment of breathing, I think is I'm very, 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 very thankful for the grateful part of the day. I wake up in the morning, I wiggle my toes,
Yeah.
I wiggle my toes,
I
I
hear you.
wiggle my fingers, I wiggle my toes, and I look up at the ceiling and I go, cool, everything is good, man. All is
Good.
good.
Next last question. What
Yep.
do you want to convey to somebody who's watching this an hour in? And what would be the advice that you would pass on to somebody who thinks, I'm not going to have heart disease? I'm not going to get sick.
Dude or dudette, if you feel anything is slightly off, go to a doctor. Don't do the man pride thing. Pride will get you killed. It really will. Uh, Lucky, I've been blessed. I really, really am. That I've walked out. Um, I worked out pretty good there. Just be blessed, be thankful. If something feels slightly off, get it checked. Also, when you do a physical, if you're over 40, get your EF numbers checked as well. Because most people going to a physical, you're looking for the basic stuff. But man, you gotta get your EF numbers checked. And also attitude, gratitude with attitude and attitude with gratitude. Be thankful for what you have and what's around you. Always remember there's someone else who's probably worse off than you are. So those are my things. If you could have that and love as if you're gonna die tomorrow. Get involved in stuff and do it as if it's your last, like this is the last time you're ever doing it, and do it with passion. If you can do that, then life is good. I mean, look, you were cool enough to say we were going to do a bass podcast. I said, great, let's do something else because you and I had the hard thing in common now. I was like, wow, we have one more thing in common now. So now we can
Well,
actually do this
I was
podcast.
standing there. I was standing there with my mom. I hadn't seen my mom in a while. She had come up from Florida, and we were going out to a diner so I can pick out and eat bad food, and I'm telling her about this project we're going to work on, and I think the phone rang and it was you, and you say to me, dude, we're doing a podcast on heart failure and heart disease. And I'm looking at the phone, I'm looking at my mom, I'm looking at the phone, and I'm going, why why am I doing this? Why am I not saying no? That I'm running away from this, and I'm running away into a diner to eat, like feed my feelings. And it ended up really, really being a positive thing, I think, for me, for you, for anybody, who's listening, or you hear about this podcast, take a listen, because we're bringing news that's generally a negative and turning it into a positive.
Absolutely.
That we're going to be the mirror on self-reflection to get yourself checked out, get your EF numbers to see where your heart is pumping at, and help. We're here to help. And on that note, I'm going to thank my guest, normally co-host, Anthony Geathers. And I'm Gregg Weiss, and you've been watching the Change of Heart podcast that we are streaming on 8 platforms currently and expanding, thanks to Anthony and all his hard work. And I want to thank our engineer tonight, Randall Martin. And we're going to go have a big food fest one day, the 3 of us.
Yes.
And thanks again. And share, like, and subscribe.
Bye, everybody. Looking forward to more episodes. And check out our Case for Bass. For those
Yes, we
players
have the
out
Case
there.
for Bass podcast on the same platforms on Facebook. And if you play bass, we want to talk to you.